स्टडी IQ IAS, अब तैयारी हुई अफोर्डेबल।
Welcome to StudyIQ's initiative, the podcast. I am your host, Dipansh Moorjani. So tighten your belts because it is time for the podcast of the day. In the last episode, we discussed some various provisions related to President of India. So all our new listeners can listen to our previous episode, not only on YouTube, but also on various audio streaming platforms like Spotify, Hubhopper, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, etc. In today's episode, we are going to discuss powers and functions of our President. Sir, can you make us aware on powers which are possessed by the President of India?
Before we start, I want to tell you something, that this is not an advertisement. However, it is a global vision of StudyIQ to provide most affordable and effective education. In our prelims to interview program, that is P2I program, you will be accompanied by the best faculties of the field, and you will also receive the one-to-one mentorship in this program. Moreover, you will receive prelims as well as mains test series according to UPSC syllabus. So, for huge discount, you can use my code AVLIVE. All the links are pinned in the comment section.
As we have already discussed the various procedures for President's election and removal, it is time that we should understand the various powers for President. First, I will start with the executive powers of President. For every executive action that the Indian government takes, it is to be taken in the name of President. President may or may not make rules to simplify the transactions of business of the central government. President also appoints the Attorney General of India and determines his remunerations. President also appoints the following important positions. First, CAG, Controller and Auditor General of India, Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners, Chairman and members of Union Public Service Commission. Even President appoints state governors. President also appoints and constitutes Finance Commission of India, its chairman and its member. President also seeks administrative information from the Union government. He requires Prime Minister to submit for considerations of the councils of ministers in any matter on which a decision has been taken by minister. However, this decision was not a part of the discussion or consideration of the council. President also appoints national commissions for SC and ST. President also appoints interstate councils. He also appoints administrators of union territories. President can declare any area as a scheduled area and has powers with respect to the administration of scheduled areas as well as tribal areas.
Sir, after understanding executive powers of the President, we are curious to understand legislative powers.
As we've understood the executive powers of President, now I would like to highlight the legislative powers of President. The first legislative powers that he can summon or prorogues Parliament and dissolve the Lok Sabha. President also can summon a joint sitting for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in case of deadlock over any decision in Parliament. President also addresses the Indian Parliament at the commencement of the first session after every general election. President appoints Speaker, Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha and Chairman and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. He also nominates 12 members for Rajya Sabha. He can also nominate 2 members to Lok Sabha from the Anglo-Indian community. President consults the Election Commission of India on the questions of disqualifications of MPs. President also recommends, permits the introduction of certain types of bills. He lays down the following reports before the Parliament. The various reports are CAG report, Controller and Auditor General's report, Union Public Service Commission's report and Finance Commission's report.
Sir, can you enlighten us on financial powers of President?
As we have discussed the executive and legislative powers, now we will try to understand what are the financial powers of President. First, that to introduce the money bill in Lok Sabha, his prior recommendation is necessary. He also causes union budget to be laid before the parliament. To make a demand for grants, his recommendations are prerequisite. Contingency Fund of India is also under President's control. President also constitutes the Finance Commission every 5 years. Apart from financial powers, President also has some judicial powers. First, appointment of Chief Justice and Supreme Court and High Court judges are with the President itself. President takes advice from Supreme Court. However, this kind of advices is not binding on President. President has pardoning powers also. Under Article 72, he has been conferred with the powers to grant pardon against punishment for an offence against union law, punishment by a martial court, or death sentence.
Sir, can you give some useful information on types of pardoning power?
Pardoning powers of President includes following types. First is pardon. The grant of pardon convicts both convictions and sentence completely absolved. The second is commutation. With this, nature of the punishment of the convict can be changed in altogether its sense. Number third is remission, which reduces the term of imprisonment. Number fourth is the respite. This awards the lesser punishment than the original punishment by looking at the special conditions of a convict. The number 5 is reprieve, stays the execution of the awarded sentence for the temporary period.
Sir, what are diplomatic powers of President?
The diplomatic powers of President are as follows. The international treaties and agreements that are approved by Parliament and are negotiated and concluded in the name of President. President is the representative of India in international forums and affairs. Student must understand that President also possesses some military powers. He is the commander of the defense forces in India, and he also appoints Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Navy, Chief of Air Force. And President also holds emergency powers under the Article 352 through National Emergency, President's rule through Article 356 and 365, and even financial emergency under Article 360.
Sir, from UPSC's examination point of view, students often get confused between ordinance making power of President and veto power. So can you explain these powers in simple words?
Article 123 deals with the ordinance making power of President. The President has many legislative powers, and this power is one of them. He promulgates an ordinance on the recommendations of Union Cabinet. However, the ordinance making power with the President is when the two houses are not functioning. The veto power is explained such: when a bill is introduced in the Parliament, Parliament can pass the bill, and before the bill becomes an act, it has to be presented to the Indian President for his approval or assent. It is on the President of India to either reject the bill or return the bill, even though withhold his assent to the bill. The choices of the President over the bill is called his veto powers. The veto power of President of India is guided by Article 111 of Indian Constitution.
Sir, thank you for your explanations. Dear listeners, it is time to wrap up this episode of the podcast. We will be back soon with another topic. Till then, stay connected with StudyIQ and keep studying. You can listen to StudyIQ Presents the podcast on various audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Hubhopper, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, etc. Links are pinned in the comment section below. Thank you.